The Yankees won again. They have won now 5 of 6 playoff games. They're 2 wins away from going to the World Series. So they beat the Guardians 6-2, and they're up 2-0. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I've been watching every pitch of this postseason, and although the Yankees have won 5 of 6, I still truly don't believe that they've played their A game. I think they've been playing in the B area. They are not playing their best baseball. They're being supported by an extraordinary performance by their bullpen. For the most part, their pitching has been really, really good yesterday. Garrett Cole didn't have it. And he kind of like gritted his way through into the 5th inning. But you could see he didn't have a great fastball. He was inventing things along the way, and he's such a great pitcher. It didn't get out of hand. He turned over a lead to the bullpen. Clay Holmes did a great job. Tim Hill got 5 outs, got a standing ovation. Tommy Kahnle, and once again, Luke Weaver. So to be up 2-0 in a best-of-7 series going back to Cleveland, guys, and they haven't played their A game, I think that bodes very well for the Yankees.
I think it does. I don't know why we get into the game of style points when we're talking about the playoffs. You know, in the regular season, especially football, because there's only 17 of them, we won the game, but. There's no won the game but in the playoffs in baseball. Survive and advance. You're one step closer. And the way I would look at it is if we can play better, all the better, because I do think it'll take a little bit of a better effort to beat either the Mets or the Dodgers in the World Series. But to nitpick, the Guardians aren't any good, the Royals aren't any good, the Yankees, this isn't a great Yankee team. No, this is all good news, right? To know that you can play better and you're still up 2-0 in the League Championship Series, that is a good thing. That is something Yankee fans should be relishing in right now, excited about, because they can play better. Judge finally off the schneid hits a home run. You know, so these are things. I mean, nothing. See, Peter, the thing with the Yankee fans is they want like things guaranteed. Like, oh, we want to be so much better. We want to win every game 20-0. We don't want there to be any doubt. Sorry, that's not how it works. There's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be a little lack of confidence here or there because it's the playoffs. And even though I don't think the Guardians are that great of a team, they still could win on any given day. And you still got to put up an effort to win the game, Michael. But there's no style points. You're up 2-0. Well, would you rather play great and be down 0-2? Come on.
How do you not feel good about the fact that they're kind of coasted to 2-0 without doing anything particularly special? And then on top of that, you get a potential breakout moment from Aaron Judge. Michael, I don't know what you thought. I don't know if there was wind in there last night. To me, that thing felt like it just kept going and going. I did not think it was out off the bat, but it doesn't matter because that could be exactly what he needed. I think you got to feel great right now if you're Yankee.
Well, the reason, listen, I don't believe in style points either, but the reason that I bring it up is that the competition level is going to increase when you get to the postseason or get to the World Series. The Mets and the Dodgers are better than anybody the Yankees have faced in the American League, so you're going to have to play a better, more complete game. And like what Peter just said about Judge, that could be the jumping off point. By the way, the score was 6-3. I forgot about that run in the 9th inning. That could be the jumping off point for the Yankees with Aaron Judge. I think that allowed him to exhale. The crowd went nuts when he hit that home run. That's a big, big deal that he was able to do that. And maybe it leads to other things. And I believe since the last game of the Kansas City series, I've seen marked improvement in his approach. He's been getting on base. He's been walking, but he hasn't gotten the big hit. That was the first home run, so maybe he could exhale. And the pressure in this series, although the series is far from over, but I think that teams that have gone up 2-0 in best-of-7s have won 85% of the series. So you certainly like your chances. So maybe he can go to Cleveland and feel a little bit better about life. But, you know, they've got to play better against better teams. And the narrative that's out there right now, which I find curious, and I've always fought back about this narrative, even in college basketball, or particularly not in college basketball. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I've never seen an easier route to the World Series. Like the Yankees shouldn't, you know, feel good about going to the World Series if they beat the Guardians after beating the Royals. No. They didn't make the schedule. It's not like Georgetown in basketball used to schedule St. Leo's, and it's not like football teams in college sports. They have the homecoming game that they spend a lot of money and they have a patsy come in. These are the teams that progressed in the American League, and the Yankees have them in front of them, and they're beating them. Doesn't take anything away from them going to the World Series. That is silly, nonsensical pap.
Honestly, like looking at it, I don't know if anybody was really going to put up much of a fight in the American League. I know the Astros have the Yankees number. They weren't a great team this year. The whole West stunk. The defending champion Rangers were under 500. Angels, terrible. The Mariners completely collapsed in the second half of the season. None of the Central teams, I don't think, are really any good. You know, Baltimore hasn't won a big game in a long time. They won 100-plus games last year and still got bounced early. So why is that the Yankees' fault? Why is that anybody's fault? You know, so you take – so the Yankees may win the World Series this year. And you might look back and go, I don't think this is one of the great Yankee teams of all time. So what? All you're asked to do is be the best team in 2024. That's it. Play the teams that are ahead of you. This isn't that whole – remember we came up with there's an idea floating out there that if you have the best record, you can choose your opponent. That's not the way it is. These are the teams that advanced to take on the Yankees. They shouldn't have to apologize for it. I do think that it'll be a higher level once you get to the World Series. So if they do win the championship, Michael, I think they are definitely going to deserve it. But if they win the championship, Michael, would this team measure up to the 98 team, the 27 team, the 77 or 78 team? Probably not. So what? What does it matter? Don't you? We're going to start grading championships now? It's gotten to that level? You haven't had one since 2009, and now you want to evaluate and have this measure up with past championships? That would be silly.
I don't think I agree with you on all points. But one thing that I have been saying, you know, whether they're a great team or not, I think that baseball now, the way teams are built, and the way funds are allocated, you are not going to have perfect teams. You're going to have imperfect teams. Right. So the Yankee teams in 96, 8, 9, 2000, even 2001, those were close to perfect teams. They had every aspect that you want. This one is not a perfect team. But, and I've been saying this throughout the season, even when the Yankees in that 35-game stretch, when they were 11-24, I wasn't saying it, I was legitimately concerned. But when they righted the ship, I said, yes, there are definitely flaws in this team, but they're the best team in the American League. So I agree with what Don said. In all likelihood, they could have beaten the Astros, but that was a bug in their head. The Orioles, I think, are a better team than the teams in the Central. I think they could have beaten them because the Oriole bullpen was a mess. But bottom line, the Yankees had the best team in the American League, and they had it for most of the year. What they do against the Mets or the Dodgers, I can't tell you. I don't know how they're going to do. I want to see which team emerges. And again, the Yankees still have to get there. They have two more games to go. But Don, they're the best team in the American League. They just are.
Right. And when you measure it up, they're right there with everybody that's left. Because the Mets have their issues. I'm concerned about this bullpen. And the Dodgers don't have any starting pitching. So every team, I don't want to say is limping in because I think the Dodgers are playing well. The Mets are certainly playing well. But I think we all grow up with there's like big bad teams out there that you want to go out and beat. But we're living in a world now. The big bad teams last year were the Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. They went to the World Series, and neither of them made the playoffs. Yep. You know, the Atlanta Braves are the big bad Braves, but they were beat up, they were injured, and they didn't make it out of the first round. Astros were the big bad Astros. They had an awful start to their season. They did recover in what I thought was a very weak West, and they got bounced in the first round. So every team is flawed. I think that's what baseball is right now. I think with the advent of the revenue sharing, you've got these small market owners with really deep pockets, like in San Diego, that have kind of made it a little bit equal for some of the smaller market teams. And I think parity has now hit this sport where you don't necessarily have to be great. First time in a decade that we did not see a 100-win team. So that tells you these teams are all very close. So, yeah, I'm not sure the champion of 2024 is going to measure up with the champions of the past, but I don't care. I don't think that Texas Ranger team was a great team. You think they're throwing their championship back from last year? No, they're going to keep it. They're going to polish it up because it was their first ever one. You know, and whoever wins the championship this year, of all 4 teams that are left, are not throwing it back. Cleveland hasn't had one since 1948. Yankees haven't been to the World Series since 2009. Mets are on 38 years without a championship. The Dodgers have one COVID championship since 1988. They're not throwing their trophy back.
Also, tonight is... Tell me how you feel about this, Don. If the Mets win tonight, they got their split in L.A., they win the first game at Citi Field. Tonight is the first night where I think it really stops being fantasy, and I start legitimately believing we're looking at a Subway Series 2024.
If they win tonight.
Yes.
Now, a little birdie told me that you might be at Citi Field tonight. What a big shot.
I don't think it's a might.
It's definite. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously, listen, I'm as important as it gets. I am in the top 45,000 most important people in New York.
Wow.
I made it. No problem.
Good seat or, nosebleeds?
No, of course not a nosebleed.
You're a lower bowl guy. I mean, you're not.
No. It's 100 level.
You sitting in Seinfeld suite or something like that?
I do not think I'm in Seinfeld suite.
Okay.
I'm going to be out there amongst the people. I'm going to be in the...
You're in Gen Pop.
I'm in Gen Pop. I'm out down.
Well, would that be a
third
bad thing
baseline
for you in jail? Let's just leave it at that. If you were in Gen Pop.
Well, come on. If I require a suite at a football game, think about what I need in jail.
Now, yesterday's game had I think 2 very debatable telling occurrences, and one of them was I mean, if you live long enough, you're gonna get to see something that you just didn't think you'd see. So there's runners at second and third, and they intentionally walk Juan Soto to pitch to Aaron Judge, and I mean, shocker, right? This was in the second inning. So 1 run was in already, and it's 2-0. And Stephen Vogt's trying to stop it right there. So people can go, how could you do this? Well, it was done once before this year. The White Sox did it to pitch to Judge, and Judge got a hit. But then they did it last night, and Judge got a sacrifice fly. And I think that ticked Judge off. Now, last night, he said it didn't insult him at all. But when it happened against the White Sox, he said it did insult him. So if it insulted him against the White Sox, can you imagine how he felt in the ALCS with the whole world watching?
I know, but
I think that was the move to make.
It is the move to make, and you shouldn't be insulted by it because of the kind of hitter Soto is. He's dangerous. So if you nibble, you're going to walk him. So you might as well just walk him. Right, you're not going to give him a pitch to hit because it's second and third. So you're definitely going to pitch to him because first base is open. But he's the kind of guy, Michael, he's not going to bite when you nibble. So now you're messing around, possibility of a wild pitch, something like that. So you know what? Go after Judge because I can nibble with him a little bit more than Soto because Soto he spits on those pitches. Yep. So more than likely, Michael, if you go in with the intent of being careful to Soto, what would the percentage be you're going to walk him? Like in the 90s, right? So why not just intentionally walk him?
Now, the other move that was made, now that didn't backfire on Vogt because, you have the bases loaded, you get 1 run, you allow. You consider the move a good move because then Austin Wells ends up striking out to end that inning. And it was 3-0 Yanks. Now we go to the 4th inning, and the Guardians have the bases loaded with 1 man out, and Bo Naylor, the lefty batting catcher, he's coming up. And Stephen Vogt goes to, he shoots his shot. He sends up David Fry, who had a big hit in the Tiger series, and he shoots his shot. So he pinch hits for Naylor, and Fry jumps on the first pitch that he sees. First pitch from Garrett Cole and pops out to Josh Chisholm at third. So you shot your shot in the 4th inning, right there. Now, let's move to the 5th inning. They have the bases loaded again. And who's due up? The catcher, Austin Hedges, who had to come in to catch for Bo Naylor. So by shooting your shot in the 4th inning, you pretty much handcuffed yourself in the 5th inning because Austin Hedges can't hit. He's a major league catcher who's a good defender. He cannot hit. He's an under 200 hitter. He struck out. That's the ball game right there. So those were the 2 moves that you could dissect. 1 worked for Vogt, 1 didn't because he was the emperor with no clothes in the 5th inning because he couldn't pinch hit. For Austin Hedges, he didn't have any more catchers. Now, the other question that's out there, Don, I'm curious what you think. And I really fought for this or against it yesterday. Austin Wells was 0 for 4 again. And since, I think, September 11th, he's hitting about 100. 100. And it just doesn't look good at the plate, but he remains as the cleanup batter. So my question to you and Peter and everybody listening, do you want to mess with the mojo and drop him down in the lineup? Because if you do that, okay, you're dropping him down in the lineup, and I'm a firm believer the big moment's always going to find you.
Right.
So even if he's batting seventh, he's going to come up in a big spot. I don't think you're going to play Trevino over him because, Jose has not hit since he came off the IL. I think he finished the regular season like 1 for 33. Hasn't hit, hasn't played at all in the postseason. So you're putting an absolutely cold batter in for Wells. Now, also, if you take Wells out of the cleanup spot, well, who exactly are you putting there? Some people yesterday were saying, well, Anthony Rizzo. The guy he's been unbelievable the 2 games he played, but he's in pain. One bad swing, all of a sudden you're going to lose him out of the cleanup spot. You're going to have, who's going to be there? John Birdie to take over at first base? A lot of people are saying, well, move Stanton up. Well, then you got the 2 righties stacked. Who's going to bat in 5th? I just don't know that if you keep winning, Don, why you're going to mess.
You've lost 1 game in the postseason, and you really, and the 1 game that you did lose was the game that you lost 4-2. But otherwise, you're fine scoring runs. You're not needing a ton of runs anyway against the Guardians. I wouldn't mess with it, Michael. It's not even like mojo. It's just like, do you even need to do it? Like, what are you focused on that for? That was my problem with it yesterday with the callers. It's like, listen, everything's been positive. You're not in any kind of threat to lose this series. Now, if you lose a game and it's because you can't hit, well, then that's when you start to make changes. Why are you looking ahead to make changes? Now, if you win this series and you evaluate what you've done and you match up against the Dodgers or Mets and you decide to change the lineup, all right, that makes sense because it's a different opponent and you kind of start anew. But right now, why would you mess with it, Michael? I know it was a scary moment in the 5th inning. 3-0 became 3-2. But once you got out of that, you tacked on runs, and then Cleveland scored in garbage time in the 9th inning. I don't really feel the need to do anything.
Well, and
I
also,
think there's something to mojo.
I would point out, if you looked at his at-bat in the 7th inning, he actually had a really good at-bat in the 7th inning. Fouling off pitches, finally hitting a hard line drive to right field that was caught. So maybe you want to, build off that. But the answer to your hypothetical, though, Don, why do you change things? Because you don't want to lose a game. And you're trying to, circumvent the fact that if you keep him there and he comes up in a big spot and can't get a hit, you might lose a game that you would have won. But again, the flip side of that is why mess with something that's working?
I know. But you're being, I understand good teams try to be preemptive, nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem, but it's not a problem. You're up 2-0. The idea is to not sweep your opponent, okay? The idea is to win the series. All right, so if you're down 0-2, well, then you got to do something, Michael, because another loss and you're going to be facing elimination. Here, the worst thing that can happen is, all right, maybe it bites you, you lose game 3, and then you can make whatever necessary adjustments. But so far, you've got no issue scoring runs at all. You've won both games, and I just think you keep going with it. You had him there for a reason. It's been a small sample size that hasn't worked out. I know that the analytic world, which is kind of silly because that's the world the Yankees live in, I don't mess with it. I don't. I'm from the hockey culture of you don't start changing the lineup until you lose a game. Why? It's working for you. I mean, if you're winning games 1-0 and you're like, well, this can't sustain. Michael, your ace pitcher couldn't get out of the 5th inning. You still won the game.
Yep.
So I don't know why you're even focused on this. I mean, are you trying to get a perfect score? I mean, are we in the Olympics? I think you overanalyze it sometimes.
Now let me play devil's advocate.
This is good.
We get to the World Series. Mets are on fire, and you play a game. Let's say 2 games into the World Series. You're getting the exact same problems. The lack of production is the exact same.
Well, you winning or losing?
No, you're now down 2-0.
Oh, of course.
In the World
you have
Series.
to change that.
So at that point, you are making the change.
Yeah, I think you make a change once you lose a game.
Oh, once you lose a game, or regardless of how you lose it.
Well, if you lose a game, like if you lose a game 9-8, and he actually was involved in it.
No, that's not what I mean, though. You lose a game, and you're getting the same lack of production. But that may not be the only reason you lost the game, but it's part of the narrative of the game.
I'd be more apt to rejigger the lineup if I lost a game.
And Peter, I'm open to doing it when the series is over. If you want to recalibrate, I got a different opponent, let's move Wells out of the 4 spot. All right, I'm out. You're hitting the reset button when you start a new series. So maybe that opens it up. I don't think you got to ride it because now you're into the World Series. I mean, it's a different set of circumstances. I mean, I would think the way the Mets are playing with the Dodgers lineup, I'm probably going to need a few more runs. I mean, the Indians actually went 20 innings without scoring a run in that series against the Guardians. I'm sorry. Right? So they went 20 innings without scoring a run in the series against the Tigers. You're not going to need a ton of runs to win these games. That might change once you get to the World Series, and if you want to recalibrate, that's the time to do it. But right now, it's an offensive problem when you're going up against the team. The team that's got problems offensively, that's the Guardians. They've got their issues.
And they've got their problems with starting pitching, too. I mean, Bybee is their best pitcher, and he couldn't get out of the second inning. So that's a concern. Maybe they have, because he didn't pitch that long, he could pitch again in Game 4. But they don't have a great starting staff either. I'm amazed that they won as many games as they did with all the injuries that they have. They don't even have Bieber.
I don't mean to beat up, but the Central Division's the junior varsity. You had a team that lost 121 games in your division. That is going to change and skew you being the second-best team in the American League. It's just going to. That is not – I understand they sent 3 teams to the division. That's because really the entire American League was not good. Honestly, take a look at it, Michael. The West wasn't good. And beyond the Yankees and the Orioles, there was nobody really good in the East.
One quick thing about the Yankees, we're saying that they have flaws, and they do, right? But think about this, too. And we'll look back on this Yankee team and say, well, it's not one of the better Yankee teams. Maybe. But if you take a look at this roster right now, you've got 3 surefire Hall of Famers. You've got Judge, you got Soto, you got Cole. And in all likelihood, you got Stanton, who's probably going to make the Hall of Fame. 4 out of 26 guys are going to the Hall of Fame. This is not a nothing team. This is a really good team that has some flaws at some positions, but you do have 4 Hall of Famers on it.
No, I get that, Michael, but this is not the sport that honors that. I mean, the Angels were finishing under 500 with 2 best players in baseball on the team.
Yep.
At the same time. That doesn't matter. I mean, how many Hall of Famers did the Yankees have in '98?
It's just Mo. It's just Mo and Jeter.
All right. So, but then that team would wipe the floor with this team, right? Right. So, because they didn't have as many Hall of Famers, Michael. They had 0 holes, 0. But there's no team that has a circular lineup anymore. There's no team that could go out there and send like 3-4 quality starters anymore. Just the way the sport is. It just and again, you don't have to apologize for that because all you have to do is just be the best team of this year. And the Yankees are certainly in that conversation.
And the one thing about the 98 team, they have 2 Hall of Famers, but they have a couple of close.
Borderline guys, yeah.
Posada, close. Bernie, close. Paul O'Neill as a Yankee was a Hall of Famer, but his years with the Reds, he wasn't a 300 hitter there. He was an over 300 hitter with the Yankees. You could say he was borderline, too. So they had, that team also had Tim Raines, another Hall of Famer. So that was a Hall of Famer, too, but he was coming off the bench. So that was, as you said, Don, that was a great team that didn't have holes. This team has holes.
Yeah, but so does every other team.
Yeah. This team has fewer holes than other teams. And just to bring it full circle, to take away from the fact that they might win a pennant and go to the World Series because the path was easy, you know what? Don't even watch sports. They didn't make the schedule up, as Don said. They didn't choose who they're playing. They're playing the teams that are put in front of them. They're better than the Royals. To me, they're better than the Guardians. They would have been better than the Tigers. I think they would have had some trouble with the Astros because the Astros are in the head.
Well,
but they're better than them, and they're better than the Orioles because they beat them in the East.
That's the thing. You can't say that they were lucky because of the upsets. Like you said, Appalachian State knocking off Duke. That's not the case here. None of these teams were all that great. They just weren't. And the Astros, yeah, that would have been sexy because they've owned the Yankees, but that wasn't a great team either. Now, I don't think the Yankees are great historically, but I think they are they're in the conversation of being the best team in baseball. I said going into the playoffs and got beat up by Yankee fans, they had an excellent chance to win. Tell me I'm wrong now. They got an excellent chance to win. They're 2 wins away from going to the World Series.
And you know what? They're a really good team, and they deserve to go to the World Series. So we'll see what happens. 1-800-919-3776. I might be getting a little information about tomorrow's lineup that would be interesting to everybody listening. Yeah. So surmising some stuff, if you will.
Sure.
If you will. As we were talking during that segment, a couple of people I know, let's leave it at that, Don, all right? People I know.
Yes.
Were giving me some information. All right, so starting for the Guardians tomorrow is Matthew Boyd, who's a left-hander. There's a good chance, not settled, but there's a good chance that Giancarlo Stanton will move up to the cleanup spot and Jose Trevino will be in the lineup.
Okay.
And I think, obviously, Wells played against everybody for about 2.5 months. Lefty doesn't matter. Righty doesn't matter. But when you have a guy who has been almost invisible during the postseason and really has struggled since September 11th, that might be the time to give him a little bit of a breather. He has a day off today, and maybe he ends up pinch hitting. I do worry a little bit about Trevino's bat because he's been so cold for so long and hasn't played. But the word I'm getting from several different sources is that Stanton could move from 5 to 4, and Trevino could be in the lineup tomorrow.
Okay.
So they are willing to just shake it up a little despite being up 2-0.
And Trevino's an excellent defensive catcher.
Yep.
But that was a heck of a block by Wells on that pitch in the 5th inning. That could have brought home the tying run.
I bet you he has a huge bruise on his bicep, too, because he blocked that with his right bicep.
Yeah, and that goes through. And listen, the Yankees still end up scoring 6 runs. I think that's a little bit different. Even if they got out of the inning without scoring another run, for the Guardians, to come back and tie the game up at 3. So that was a huge block. Although you don't lose anything defensively with Wells out of there. So they're being preemptive.
Yeah, and also the lefty, I guess, and again, nothing's set in stone. I don't know what the lineup is. This is what I'm hearing. But the lefty on the mound gives them the opportunity. Okay, we're going to give Wells a little bit of a blow. We move Stanton up to 4. It'll be interesting to see who would be 5. I don't think it's going to be Trevi. It might be Rizzo. It might be Jazz Chisholm. So right now, that's what I'm hearing about the lineup tomorrow.